Hello and welcome to Sleepy Tales, where we listen, we relax, and we drift gently into sleep. I'm your host, Brian, and I'm so glad you're here with me tonight. This evening, we'll enjoy a soothing retelling of the beloved tale Cinderella. It's a story of hope, kindness, and quiet transformation, perfect for leading you into a peaceful night's rest. Before we begin, take a moment to settle in. Find a comfortable position, allowing your body to grow heavy and supported by the bed or chair beneath you. Let your shoulders soften, unclench your jaw, and let your eyelids grow just a little heavier. Now take a slow, gentle breath in and exhale even slower. With each breath out, feel the day's tension melting away. Let your breathing become a calm and steady rhythm, carrying you deeper into stillness. When I speak to you before each story, I like to share the kind of words I'd want to hear if I were drifting into sleep myself. I know how restless the mind can sometimes be at night, and how hard it can feel to simply let go. But remember, sleep always comes in its own time. The more we trust it, the more easily it finds us. So tonight, as we step into the world of Cinderella, let your breath be your anchor. With each soft inhale and long exhale, you're inviting peace, calm, and the gentle embrace of rest. Now, let's begin the story. Cinderella story, The Enchanted Slipper. In a quaint village nestled between rolling hills and a whispering river, there lived a young woman named Ella. Her spirit, though often dimmed by circumstance, possessed an inner light that no hardship could extinguish. After the untimely passing of her beloved father, Ella's life took a turn for the worse. Her stepmother, a woman of sharp tongue and colder heart, along with her two daughters, Anastasia and Drizella, seized control of the family estate. Ella, once mistress of the house, was relegated to the role of a scullery maid. Her days filled with endless chores, and her nights spent dreaming of a life beyond the ashes of the hearth. Her only companions were the animals of the house, the mice with their tiny inquisitive eyes, and the birds, whose songs brought a fleeting moment of joy to her arduous days. They understood her silent sorrows and celebrated her small triumphs. Ella, in turn, treated them with a kindness that reflected her own gentle nature. She often found solace in the quiet corners of the house, humming old lullabies her mother used to sing, her voice a soft melody against the cacophony of her step-family's demands. One crisp autumn morning, a royal decree arrived, carried by a herald on horseback. The prince, it declared, was hosting a grand ball, a magnificent affair to find a bride. Excitement rippled through the village, but in Ella's household, it was met with a mixture of delight and disdain. Anastasia and Drizella, with their gaudy dresses and boisterous laughter, immediately began to plan their grand entrance. Ella, however, was forbidden to attend. "You, a cinder wench, at the prince's ball?" sneered Anastasia, her voice dripping with malice. "You would only embarrass us," Drizella chimed in. "Indeed, your place is here, with the cinders and the mice." Ella's heart sank, but she held her tongue, her eyes welling with unshed tears. She watched from the window as her stepmother and stepsisters departed, their carriage disappearing down the winding road, leaving her alone in the silent, empty house. As the last echo of the carriage wheels faded, Ella sank onto a stool by the fireplace, her dreams of dancing with the prince shattered. A single tear traced a path down her soot-smudged cheek. Suddenly, a soft, warm glow filled the room, and before her stood a woman of ethereal beauty, her gown shimmering like moonlight on a gentle smile gracing her lips. "Do not despair, my dear," the woman said, her voice like the chime of tiny bells. "I am your fairy godmother, and I am here to help you." Ella, astonished, could only stare. Her fairy godmother, with a flick of her wand, transformed a humble pumpkin into a magnificent golden carriage. 4 little mice, with another wave, became 4 majestic white horses, and a scruffy old dog was turned into a stately coachman. Finally, a group of lizards darting across the floor were magically transformed into footmen, resplendent in their livery. "But what about my gown?" Ella whispered, looking down at her tattered rags. With a flourish, the fairy godmother touched Ella with her wand, and in an instant, her rags were replaced by a gown of shimmering blue silk, adorned with delicate lace and sparkling jewels. On her feet appeared a pair of exquisite glass slippers, so delicate they seemed woven from starlight itself. "Now, my dear," the fairy godmother cautioned, "you must remember one thing. This magic is powerful, but it is not eternal. At the stroke of midnight, the spell will break, and everything will return to its original form. So, you must be home before the last chime." Ella, her heart pounding with excitement and gratitude, promised to remember. With a final radiant smile, her fairy godmother vanished, leaving Ella to marvel at her transformation. She stepped into the carriage, feeling like a true princess, and was whisked away toward the grand palace. Her dreams now a dazzling reality. The palace gates loomed, grand and imposing, but the carriage glided through them as if they were made of mist. Inside, the ballroom was a dazzling spectacle of light, music, and laughter. Nobles in their finest attire whirled across the polished floor, and the air was thick with the scent of exotic flowers and expensive perfumes. Ella, though initially overwhelmed, carried herself with an innate grace that drew every eye. Even her stepsisters, caught up in their own self-importance, failed to recognize the radiant beauty before them. The prince, who had been dutifully dancing with a succession of eligible young ladies, felt an inexplicable pull as Ella entered. His eyes, weary from forced pleasantries, lit up with a spark of genuine interest. He made his way through the throng, his gaze fixed on her, and with a deferential bow, he asked her to dance. Ella, her cheeks flushed with a mixture of surprise and delight, accepted. As they danced, the world around them seemed to fade. The prince, captivated by her charm, her wit, and her gentle spirit, felt a connection he had never experienced before. They spoke of dreams and aspirations, of kindness and compassion, and for the first time, the prince felt he had found his true equal. Hours passed in a blissful blur. Ella, lost in the magic of the moment, almost forgot the fairy godmother's warning. It was only when the first chime of midnight echoed through the ballroom that a jolt of panic shot through her. "I must go!" she exclaimed, pulling away from the bewildered prince. She fled, her silken gown swirling around her, down the grand staircase and out into the night. The prince, stunned by her sudden departure, called after her, but she was already gone. As she raced down the steps, one of her glass slippers slipped from her foot, left behind on the cold marble. She dared not stop to retrieve it, the chimes of midnight growing louder, each one a hammer blow against the fragile magic. She reached her carriage just as the final chime resonated through the air. In an instant, the magnificent golden carriage reverted to a humble pumpkin, the horses to mice, the coachman to a dog, and the footmen to lizards. Her beautiful gown transformed back into her tattered rags, and the exquisite glass slipper on her remaining foot vanished. Ella, breathless and disheveled, stumbled into her home just moments before her stepmother and stepsisters returned, none the wiser about her magical evening. She crept back to her attic room, her heart a whirlwind of emotions. The joy of the dance, the fear of discovery, and the lingering hope that the prince would remember her. The single glass slipper left behind on the palace steps was her only tangible proof that the night had been real. The next morning, the palace was abuzz with the mystery of the vanished princess. The prince, holding the delicate glass slipper, declared that he would marry only the woman whose foot it fit. His royal guards were dispatched to every corner of the kingdom, carrying the slipper and trinket on every maiden. The news reached Ella's village, and her stepsisters Anastasia and Drizella were beside themselves with excitement, convinced that one of them would be the prince's chosen bride. They squeezed and contorted their feet, but the slipper, as if enchanted, refused to fit. When the royal guards arrived at Ella's humble home, her stepmother tried to hide Ella away, but the prince, who had accompanied his guards, insisted that every maiden in the house be given a chance. Ella, emerging from her hiding place, her face smudged with soot, but her eyes shining with a quiet dignity, approached the guards. Her stepmother and stepsisters scoffed, but the prince, recognizing a flicker of something familiar in her gaze, urged her to try. As Ella gently slid her foot into the slipper, it fit perfectly, as if it had been made for her alone. A gasp rippled through the room, and the prince, his heart soaring, recognized the woman from the ball. He knelt before her, taking her hand in his. "You are the one," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "I have found you." Ella, her eyes brimming with tears of joy, could only nod. Her stepmother and stepsisters, consumed by envy and disbelief, watched in stunned silence as the prince led Ella away. From that day forward, Ella's life was transformed. She married the prince in a magnificent ceremony, and they lived happily ever after, ruling the kingdom with kindness and justice. The animals, her loyal friends, were given a place of honor in the palace, and Ella never forgot the lessons of humility and perseverance that her difficult past had taught her. And so the Cinder Wench became a queen, her story a timeless testament to the power of hope, kindness, and a little bit of magic